Well, good morning, Maranatha Church. My name is Jason Dykstra, and it's a privilege to be with you here this morning. Today, I want to do something a little bit different than we've been doing in the past, 10, 11, forever weeks that we've been doing this now. And I want to take you on a little bit of a journey. Rather than, sit in my house and talk with you, today I want to go on a bit of a journey. A couple of weeks ago, we sent out this survey to the congregation asking about what are some of the things that you've been missing? What are some of the things that you're grieving? Where do you see God in all of this? What are some of the things that are going well and that you are really enjoying? And I want to talk with Pastor Norm and Pastor Dina about what is it that they've been experiencing as well. And maybe even give you a few of my own thoughts on it as well. So today is going to be a little bit of a different format, so excuse me for that, but I'm hoping that you'll come along on this adventure because we're doing something a little bit different this week and next Sunday as well. And so I want to explain that as we go along. So let's go talk with a couple of people.
When it first started, I was actually up to the challenge. I was there's a creative side of me that likes to create new ideas, work with new software, experiment with the video and all that stuff. So after a few weeks, I started noticing that getting old, and now I'm getting tired and longing for some of the normal again. For the most part, I've been doing okay. I don't have the stresses at home or the challenges at home that many people have. And there's still things that I can do. Connecting with people by phone. A lot of my time is taken up by service preparation and trying to find ways of connecting and engaging the congregation in the service rather than just putting a package together for the congregation. So I've enjoyed that part of it. The days start to feel the same, day after day after day. The changes that occurred for us is, the big thing was we were gearing up for our trip to Israel. And we were walking every day, we were preparing, we were going to intensify our training. And then when this started, it was like, okay, is this going to happen? Maybe not, likely not. And so when we finally got word it was canceled, there was sort of a sense of loss there. We had been anticipating it for a year, looking forward to it, preparing for it. And then on the other hand, we thought, okay, well, it'll happen again some other day, and if not, wasn't meant to be. That wasn't one of the losses that hit us the hardest. The two things that probably hit me the hardest in terms of loss were the fact that Caleb was born on March the 4th, our second grandson. An hour of his being born, we sensed already from our son that there were some health concerns. We raced over there as fast as we could, but there was a lot of unanswered questions. And the problem is there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and now this whole pandemic thing and the shutdown of hospitals, not hearing from the hospital for sick kids and thinking, come on, they've got to see him. We need to know what's going on. And I think that's been a struggle for us. We don't have control over that, and we hurt for him, even though he's doing really well. He seems to be healthy from all external appearances, and the parents are doing really well. We just wish that we could know what we're dealing with. The other piece of it is, even more because of this health concern, we just want to hug the pieces out of him. And we can't. And he's growing and changing already in the first 3 months. And we don't get to enjoy that part of it. So I think that's what we're grieving the loss of. Having said that, I think there's probably something bigger that's been weighing down on me too. The two sides, just the mess that our world is in. And what I see happening, what we all see happening, and you know that there's an increase in domestic violence. You know that there's a lot of tension in the home. Parents who weren't trained to be teachers now having to be teachers, some facing financial concerns, and all that tension is mounting. And then you see sort of explosions, whether in the home or in society, and what's happening down south. And it disturbs me. And then I think, what am I to say to this? What is our role as a church in the midst of all this? How do we even speak into it? And then that's the related piece. What are we supposed to be doing as church? We can't do what we normally do. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's maybe a good thing for us to rethink what we do. But I have no idea what we're supposed to be doing. And I have a sense of loss of what am I supposed to be doing? I'm not really sure. I hurt for the vulnerable. Valerie works with those who are addicts and the struggle that they have, both in the program and then those that are struggling to get into the program and just not getting in. I struggle with the racial tensions that you're seeing in the States right now, here too. And then even on the pastors page, I'm sensing tensions between the pastors as they wrestle with what is our responsibility as Christians, and that just weighs heavy on me. And I wouldn't say that, am I grieving? I'm not even sure what I'm grieving there, but it just feels like this heavy burden that I can't let go of. Something that just inspired me, when Caleb was born, Tim and Alyssa announced that he was named after me, Caleb Norman, and that was powerful for me. I wasn't expecting it. Norman's not a common name. I was always told as a young kid, Norman means fierce man from the north, and I'm good with that. And then when you add that to Caleb, of course, is one of the spies that said, we can do this. We can take the land. Those giants aren't too big for us. And I'm thinking, okay, Caleb, you're my hero. You're going to take this on and you're going to show us the way forward in the midst of this. So that sort of inspires me when I think of Caleb Norman, fierce man from the east. But then I see glimmers of hope too, just signs, neighbors who are making scrubs or masks, collecting donations, all the painted rocks. You know, it seems trivial on the one hand, but you know what, those kids, mostly kids that are doing them, maybe some adults too, but they're just planting little seeds of hope.
Like Norm said, I mean, so much has changed and so much has just been different. And I'm not really sure what to make of it either. I know for myself that, things have been just different and things have been a little crazy. You know, for my wife, she's still off at work, but for me, you know, all of a sudden, I have 3 kids at home that are trying to do this school stuff and, you know, trying to get work done. And so while life has become less busy, it's also become more busy in so many different ways. Some of the things that I'm experiencing right now is just a lot of anxiety, actually. A lot of anxiety about just not knowing when is this gonna end. It's just been different for my kids as well, that they're just in this different place of school, and now all of a sudden I'm the teacher. And there's a really good reason why I didn't go into teaching. Life for us has changed in a dramatic and undramatic way. I really miss seeing my friends and giving hugs and just being able to go to your friend's house or to a family member's and sit down on the back deck and enjoy time with them, enjoy time with their kids, and with just being in community, just missing going to church and really just lamenting that. And yeah, there's some great things I think that have come of this as well. Enjoy certain aspects of doing this new way of doing church, of, you know, sitting down with my coffee in the morning, wearing pajamas and eating cinnamon rolls while watching church and singing songs. But I miss being with people around that. I miss just community. And we had a couple of different things planned for this summer and for even for March break that just didn't happen. And just to see the disappointment in our kids, in their faces, was really just heartbreaking. I've dealt with anxiety for a number of years, and situations like this really just, it makes it almost even worse in some ways. And so learning how to cope with that, learning how to deal with that in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of all of these different things that we're dealing with, is difficult. It's different. And so one of the things that this has allowed me to do is really just to get out and explore my own backyard in so many different ways, and to see different things that I haven't seen before. But it doesn't come without its difficulties. It doesn't come without its struggles. And I think there are a lot of people that are doing really great, that this hasn't affected them that much. And that's wonderful and that's awesome. And I rejoice with people that are experiencing that. And I know for others that it's been really difficult. It's been a time where nothing is the same and we don't have control over that. And if I'm being really honest, that's one of the things that I really struggle with, is not having control, not having control over what I'm going to do or who I'm allowed to visit, or all of those different things. Not having control over who's wearing a mask and who's not wearing a mask, or who's following the rules at the grocery store or at a Home Depot and who's not. And I think in times like that, for myself, I really kind of cling to what it is that I can control. And I'm often reminded that I don't control much and that I'm really insignificant. A couple of years ago, my wife and I, we went to Alberta. I remember sitting out there with Dina and just looking at this view of these incredible mountains just in front of us. And Gina said something along the lines of, "Doesn't this just make you feel so insignificant?" And I thought, isn't that just so beautiful? And we just think about how God has created all of these things, just the incredible things that He's done and how it all works together, and that we're just a small piece of that. And I think it's important that we recognize that doesn't give us permission to, just go and do nothing. I think it almost gives us more responsibility, that it's important that we play our part in this. Well, why don't we go see what Dina has to say about how she's dealing with this and what is it that she's missing in the midst of all of this.
Oh, this whole thing has been tough. I miss people. I think it was hard because for the first time in my career, I had to cancel youth group for many days in a row, many weeks in a row, which never has happened before. And so to navigate at the same time as everyone else as a leader has been tough and challenging in good ways, because it also has kept me on somewhat of a balanced approach on that this is really not fun for anyone at the moment. So I'm not the only person in it. I kept reminding myself that. I'm not the only person missing people. I miss my people. I think when you plan, like we make these plans. Like last May, we had to make our goals for the year, and we had all of these things all set in a row. This is what we're going to do in youth group, and this is what we're going to do in Sunday school, and this is what we'll do for adult ministry and for worship. And we have all of this as church staff. We all make these plans. Crazy to think back of where it was, what we thought 2020 would look like, what we thought the whole ministry would look like, the year, and then have to, in about 48 hours, totally change how we did ministry and how we helped walk alongside people in their faith is just been crazy. The craziness for me was I am not a techie person. I had to learn very quickly different technical things. We were supposed to go back for youth group, and Jason and I were talking about whether we would do Zoom for youth meetings or not, and we're like, oh, let's just wait to see what all happens. And then like the second weekend, we're like, we better do Zoom because this is going to last a long time. So that has pushed me out of my comfort zone. And of course, just thinking about people. I care about people. I want people to know they're loved. And we're in an age where a lot of generations do not feel loved and feel lonely because social media, and yet we've had to pretty much stick to social media for ministry, and that was a hard sell in my heart. I mean, I think it's going well, but still, the human connection is just such an important part to everybody, and that you can't really get that fully on a Zoom meeting or on a YouTube video or anything like that. Yeah. I mourn the fact that there is no more freedom to go and be with each other. I love that we've learned different things. I love that we worship differently. I love that we've discovered the church is more than a building. I mourn that I can't just have coffee with a bunch of different people or have a campfire with a youth group or be in the youth room to watch them devour the drink fridge. And personally, I mourn the fact I can't be there to help my parents the way that I always have. We've really had to take a step back with that. And that's hard. I mean, I think everybody's dealing with that. It's very hard to care at a distance. Our family got our butts kicked this weekend with my dad and my brother and myself. And we had a meeting on Thursday of last week about this sermon series, and I thought about this sermon series when I was laying in a hospital bed on my own. I could not have anyone come in. I was pretty scared. I didn't really know what was going on with me. My phone was going to die. My kids kind of were freaking out while they were freaking out. My family was freaking out because we had so much on our plate, and yet we were so alone and no one could do anything. And I'm not the only one that's gone through something like this. Maybe not everyone has had a gallbladder attack, because really, quite frankly, I hope none of you do. But to be separated from your family when you need your family the most is something that I will have to deal with COVID, because COVID took that away from so many of us. I'm not the only one. It's changed so much for so many people. And I think it's ironic that the youth theme is grace, where we have to give each other so much grace right now. So I'm grateful for grace, and I'm grateful for the stillness that I can figure that out, because we have done a great job as humans to make our lives very busy. But I think even this weekend, with everything that we went through as a family, we really had to just say, okay, God's in control. And that's, even if I'm lamenting, I just have to remember, I can be sad, I can be angry, I could be totally ticked off, and that's okay. God will let me be ticked off. Doesn't mean I don't like him or I don't respect his decisions or his plan, but I'm okay to be angry, but I know that in the end, who my maker is and who's in control of my life, and allow him to lead my life through this.
I've been thinking a lot about Romans 12 lately, specifically verse 15, where Paul is talking about love and what is love and what is love in action, and how love is not this just noun. It's not this just this thing that we do, but it's this verb, it's this action, it's this thing that we participate with others through the things that they're going in. In verse 15, he talks about rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. I can't help but think we're pretty good at rejoicing with people when they have something to rejoice. But how good are we at mourning with someone who is mourning? And what does that even look like? Paul actually gives us a hint as to what that might look like earlier on in Romans 12. Over in verse 9, love must be sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves, never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer, share with the Lord's people who are in need, and practice hospitality. And I think so often when we see people in this period of lament, or we see these people in this period of mourning or of tragedy or of just not receiving great news, what we try to do is try to rip them out of that very thing that they are going through. We try to give them some of these different platitudes, and we try to help them to see the light. But here's the problem with that, is when we do that, we're actually robbing them of the very love they deserve in that moment. And so this week we're going to be exploring, what does it look like for us to actually mourn with those who mourn? Like I said earlier, some of us are just doing really great during this time, and life hasn't actually changed that much. And for others, it's changed a lot, and it's been very difficult. And so what does it look like for us as a community to come around each other, even in this distant space, even in this place where we can't be together all in one building? What would it look like for us to mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice? So when we see some of these systemic challenges that we're facing around people that are already in poverty and that are now losing their jobs, what does it look like to mourn with them? When we see the death of George Floyd happen and all of the protests that are happening both in the States and here in Canada, what does it look like for us to mourn with those who mourn? And over the next week, we're going to be talking with different families and different people that are talking about what their experience has been like over the last couple of months. And what does it look like to mourn with them as they mourn? What does it look like to talk within our families and have conversations, or people in our community? What does it look like to have those conversations with each other and support each other even in this time of mourning? And so this week we'll have 5 different videos coming out. The very first one is going to be about the loss of everyday life. On Tuesday we're going to talk about the loss of community. Wednesday we're going to talk about anticipatory losses, those things that we were looking forward to that just aren't going to happen anymore. Thursday we're going to talk about death, and on Friday we're going to talk about the loss of freedom or the loss of control that so many of us have experienced. And so I hope that you join us over the coming week as we prepare to really have a funeral next Sunday around mourning what we've lost. I think we're being called to come into a new normal. And what does that look like? And I think in order to get out of some of the pain that we're experiencing, we need to make sure that we sit with it and that we go through it. Our invitation to you is to participate in all of these different things that are happening this week and watching the videos and having some discussions around your dinner table or with your family or friends on Zoom or FaceTime or whatever that looks like, in the driveway, whatever that looks like for you, around how are some of these things impacting your life, and what does it look like for us to mourn together as a community, even in this new way.
In this time, our prayer is that you will not get lost or stuck in your sorrow and grief. We also hope that you will not struggle alone, that you will have others that you can share your struggle with. And we also hope that you will do your best to try to understand what others are going through, to appreciate as best you can the burden that it is for them and why they may be struggling the way they're struggling, even if you are not. We are asked to mourn with those who mourn. So in your prayers this week, take the time to give expression to what it is you are mourning about. Share that with someone else, not simply so that they can feel sorry for you, but so that they can know what it is you're going through, and then listen to their struggle. Give them an opportunity to share as well. And again, not so that you can try and fix their problems, but simply so that they can know they are not struggling alone. We look forward to next week when we come together again, and we will not only give expression to our sorrow and loss, but at the foot of the cross, as we experience the extreme loss and misery and pain of sin and death, we will look up and see Jesus with his arms open wide, saying, "This is why I have come, to give you hope, to give you life, to restore you." So for now, look up and listen and hear Jesus see you and say to you, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to smile on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace." Amen. Amen. Have a God week.